Mom kicked me out for her new fiancé after Dad died and uninvited me from her wedding. So I reached out to my grandparents. Now she's losing our house and her engagement. So my dad passed away about a year ago after a really long struggle with brain cancer. We knew that he was not going to make it as soon as he had been diagnosed because the doctors had told us that it was a little too late for him. But we still tried our very best to keep the treatments going and he put on a brave face for us, but ultimately, we lost him. He was my best friend ever since I was a kid, and even though I definitely love my mom, I loved him a lot more. After he passed away, I felt like a piece of me had left with him, and I was never going to get that piece back. So naturally, I was quite emotionally affected by his demise, and for the past 1 year, I've been quite lost. I was 16 back then, and recently, I turned 17 and I decided to take a gap year after I graduated high school because I need some time to figure out what I want to do with my life. I'm privileged enough to have that choice since my family has been supportive of my decisions so far, so I'm going to work and figure out what I want to do in the future. Until then, I planned on staying back home since I didn't want to waste money renting an apartment for myself. However, my mother had her boyfriend move in with us a couple months ago, and even though I was not exactly fine with it, I had to pretend like it was not a big deal because I did not want to hurt my mother or question her feelings for my dad. But I found it quite odd that she had started dating this guy just 6 months after my dad had passed away because I thought it was too soon. I even casually brought it up with my mother, and she told me that she missed my dad, but at some point, she would have to move on. And the guy she was dating, she had known him since they were in high school, and they had drifted apart for a bit when he moved away, but had reconnected recently when he had come back here. Apparently, he was the one who had been there for her all along, even when my dad had been diagnosed, and recently, when he had confessed his feelings for her, she decided to go for it because she had really grown to care for him. So after having dated for 3 months, she had him move in with us so we could bond because they were getting married soon. A couple of weeks ago, they got officially engaged, and after the engagement party, my mother told me that she had to speak to me in private, and that was when she told me that once she was married, she would want me to move out since she did not want me to be part of her, and neither did she want me staying with them anymore because she wanted to start afresh, and both she and her partner agreed that this would be for the best. So just to be clear, it has been only a year since my dad passed away, and just 6 months after his demise, my mom started seeing this guy. She told me about it after she had been out for a couple of days with him, and 3 months after that, she had him move in with us. I was fine with that because she was trying to move on and she knew what was best for her. She had also been a good mother to me so far, and when my dad was alive, she had also been a good wife to him. So I had no reason to question her, and I respected her decision, even though I did not necessarily agree with it or think it was a good idea. But I thought that I was too young to know anything, so I kept my mouth shut. Now, it has been almost 3 months since her boyfriend has been living with us, and 4 weeks ago, a few days after they got engaged, she told me that she wanted me to move out by the time they started the preparation for the wedding that was going to be in a couple of months, maybe 5 or 6 at most. I think it would be very obvious to anyone with even half a brain that she was rushing things, and it was completely unnecessary. It was also kind of disrespectful to my dad's memory because it had not been that long since he passed away. Anyway, after she told me that she would want me to move out and wouldn't want me to be a part of her new family, I didn't even know what to tell her. So I just asked her why exactly had she made this decision, because as far as I could recall, she had said that she wanted her fiancé to be living with us so we could get to know each other and bond, which would be good for us because eventually, she planned on marrying him and then we would all be living together. And now, all of a sudden, she wanted me to find a place of my own. It just didn't add up. She did not seem inclined to tell me the real reason, but then, when I kept insisting that I wanted to know, she told me that her fiancé wasn't exactly comfortable with the idea of me continuing to live with them even after they got married because I would be a constant reminder of her previous relationship. The guy had told her that he had apparently been in love with her ever since they were in high school, but had never been able to work up the courage to ask her out, and then they sort of lost touch when they were in college. Eventually, my mom ended up marrying my dad and they didn't speak for many years. But he had always resented my father for being able to get to her first, and now that he was finally out of the way, he didn't want me here. She told me that her fiancé didn't even want me to be invited to the wedding because he thought that it was cold and hateful and I did not approve of their relationship. So, he wanted me out because he thought that I was against their relationship, and he believed that I would prove to be quite toxic if I was at the wedding or even in their lives. I couldn't even believe that she was entertaining this idea, and she told me that she had tried to fight for me, saying that I was just lost and kind of distant from everyone at this point because I still missed my dad, but her fiancé had made up his mind and had given her an ultimatum. She could either choose my side or she could choose him. And very obviously, she had made her choice, so she was asking me to stay out. She told me that she had talked her fiancé into at least letting me stay until I was able to find a place, but after that, they would require me to leave as soon as the wedding got close. That day was horrible for me because I had a huge fight with my mom, naturally. I told her that she was a coward, and she was incredibly selfish for choosing her fiancé over me. We were shouting at each other, so her fiancé was able to overhear what was going on, and he came to her rescue. And he started accusing me of never even trying to give him a chance and creating a very hostile environment for him ever since he had moved in. I don't think that was true. I just didn't go out of my way to speak to him, and I was only polite to him, but didn't treat him with any extra love or affection. I think that's pretty normal, so I don't even know why he was expecting that because I had just lost my father. I was obviously still trying to process that, and I was not ready to build a relationship with him as my stepdad so soon. Anyway, he started accusing me of being hostile. I told him that he had no right to say anything at all to me because this was my house and he couldn't kick me out. So then, things got much worse, and he told me that he could definitely kick me out because it was my mother's choice not to have me here since I was the face of her past mistakes. That comment made me so mad that I ended up attacking him and scratched his face up real bad. My mother had to separate us, and then, she told me that she would call the cops if I did not leave, so I packed some of my things and I headed over to my grandparents' place. I went to live with my paternal grandparents because my mom's parents live out of state and I'm not very close with them. Once I was there, I explained the entire situation to them, and they decided to take matters into their own hands. They had already known all about my mother, trying to move on just 6 months after their son had passed away, but just like me, they had not questioned either. They had wanted to respect her wishes and let her live her life the way she wanted to because we were sure that my dad's demise was tough on her as well. All of us had wanted to give this relationship a chance, but she had proven that she was not the same person she had been when my dad was still around. Anyway, once I told my grandparents what had happened, they decided to cut off her funds. Apparently, ever since things got too bad with my dad's health, he had to quit his job and my grandparents were the ones who had been funding everything. My mom works in publishing and has a decent income on her own, but my dad used to be a dentist and quite a well-known one at that. So the kind of lifestyle that we were used to, my mother couldn't maintain that on her own income, and so, my grandparents had been chipping in so that I wouldn't have to make any sacrifices, and I'm incredibly privileged for that. After my father passed away, they continued to support us by sending my mother money, even after she started dating somebody else. They were doing all of this because they did not want me to be uncomfortable and I was still young, so it was my mom taking care of me, so they sent the money to her. They wanted to make sure that she was taken care of because she and my dad had been together for a long time, and my grandparents had genuinely considered her the daughter that they never had. But since I had left home, they decided that they were going to cut off her funds, and that would mean that she would not be able to afford the lavish wedding that she was planning. It was pretty stupid on her part to even kick me out, because if she knew that she had been counting on the money that my grandparents had been sending, then she should have at least waited until the wedding had happened to kick me out. I found out about this because the day that I got kicked out, and I told my grandparents everything, they called her up and got into a fight with her, and later on, she messaged me saying that I was the reason she would have to scale her way down, and even her fiancé was upset because he had not known that she had been living off of her in-laws' money so far. He thought that she was able to afford that lifestyle all on her own, and well, let's just say that he had been in for a nasty surprise. But the cherry on top is the fact that nobody knew that even the house that we had been living in was owned and paid for by my grandparents. My dad had never brought it up because he didn't think that it would ever be necessary, but the house had a wedding gift from my grandparents to him. My grandparents had tried to transfer the deed of the house to him, but my dad had declined and said that he wanted my grandparents to retain ownership of the house legally so that if my grandparents ever were in need, they would be able to sell the property in the future. And by then, he hoped to be successful enough to move out on such short notice and not care about it. Had he been alive, he definitely would have been able to do so, so I guess he lived up to that. Anyway, for whatever reason, my dad had made sure that my grandparents retained legal ownership of that house, and now, my mother was upset because she was getting kicked out of the house herself and didn't have a place to play happy family in. And guess what? The best part is that she's blaming me for all of this as if I'm the one who started it. The only thing that I did was complain to my grandparents because I was the one being wrong, and I don't think that was with an intention to take revenge on her. It was just something that happened because I needed somebody to talk to. She screwed herself over, not me. But anyway, she has been sending me messages about how she had been planning on adopting twins because that's what she had always wanted, and after marriage, she and her fiancé were going to apply, but now, they had to rethink everything, and come up with a new plan for their life, and it was all because of me. She said that she has been feeling humiliated since she doesn't know when she's going to get married anymore and has no idea where she's even going to live. And instead of being sorry about any of this, she has been blaming me, saying that the least I could have done for her was at least give her some time like she had done for me. Apparently, she thought that she had fought for me and showed me that she cared, but I didn't do the same for her. She believes that she has been betrayed, and I can't even come up with a single logical train of thought that would explain why my mom thinks that she has been betrayed by me after everything that's happened. She had been trying to call me and stuff, and then I blocked her without any response because I did not think that I owed it to her. After all, she did not think that she owed me an explanation when she decided that she was going to pick her fiancé over me. But blocking her didn't even help. She came up with other ways to contact me and bother me and relentlessly keep sending me messages, reminding me that this was all my fault. It got way too much for me to handle, so I decided to respond to her once and for all and end this. She had been using fake accounts and throwaway email addresses on social media to keep sending me messages, so I decided to respond to one of them, and I told her that this was all her fault and she needed to stop blaming me for it. I told her that I was glad that I had ruined her life and now, she wasn't sure at what time she was going to get married or where she was going to live or how she was going to adopt the kids that she was planning on adopting with her fiancé. Most of all, I was glad that she wouldn't be able to build a family because just in case she had forgotten, she had already done that once. She already had a family and I was a part of it, but look how she treated me. And if this is her idea of how family should be treated, especially your own children, then I guess it's for the best that she isn't going to get the opportunity to adopt kids anymore. I told her that she wasn't fit to be a mother since she had found it more reasonable to choose her fiancé over me, for no real reason. Then, I even questioned if she had actually been loyal to my dad at all because the speed at which she and her relationship with her fiancé was moving, it was questionable whether she even missed my father. I had tried my best to respect her decisions, but unfortunately, she had proven that she was not worthy of my respect and now, whatever my grandparents were doing, I was going to stand by and let them handle it because I thought it was the right thing to do. And she would have to look for a place and move out because that's exactly what she had been trying to do to me and this is just karma hitting her back. I sent this message and after that, the chaos that has followed, I don't even know what to say about it. Right now, my family is divided because some people think that I said a lot of things that were not necessary and some people think that my mother deserved it. The only reason the rest of the family was unable to find out about it was because my mom posted the entire exchange on social media and I guess it was kind of fair. Since she did every single detail, she didn't leave out her own faults, but she also made it seem like I was overreacting and that after having raised me, this was not what she deserved. I'm glad that some people are on my side but the ones who are with my mother on this, I don't know how to feel about that since it's not like these people have always been against me, they are my relatives and even they have adored me, but this time, they think that I went too far. So what do you guys think? Ida for telling my mother that I don't think she's fit to be a mother after she chose her fiancé over me? Update 1. Hi, everyone. Thank you to everyone who has responded to my post and commented on it. It means a lot that you guys took out the time to do so. Anyway, coming to what's going on with my family, I think it's better for me not to pay any mind to the people who are not on my side on this one because I did whatever I thought was appropriate and my grandparents think that at this stage, it was necessary for me to speak up because my mom doesn't have the right to go out of her way to make me feel guilty for something that was not even my fault and expect me to take it without a word. I stood up for myself and they thought it was the right thing to do, that's all that matters to me. But that's just my paternal grandparents, my mom's parents are obviously on her side here and they think that I should apologize to her and try to make it all right with her because they think that I had been vindictive and cruel. So I did the only reasonable thing, I blocked them as well, and I'm gonna make sure that they are not able to contact me after this since if they can't even see their own daughter's faults, I don't think they have any business commenting on mine. It's been a while since I left home and my grandparents have already stopped sending her money, since there was no formal arrangement, they were just doing it out of the kindness of their heart. And the only thing that's left to do is evict them so I can have the house to myself again. My grandparents have already spoken to their lawyers and have the eviction notice prepared, so my mom is going to be served in a couple of days. Some of you had been asking if my mother had any idea that the house did not actually belong to my father and that it belongs to my grandparents and well, I don't really know. I don't think she knew, because otherwise she might have gotten him to transfer the property to her. My grandparents handled the property tax but my dad paid the money, so even if she had been living in that house for a really long time, it didn't matter because she didn't have anything to do with it legally. Anyway, I'm really looking forward to having her evicted so I can have the house to myself again because I feel like she deserves to be taught a lesson. Dealing with my emotions had been extremely difficult for me for the past year, ever since my father passed away, and she knew that. She had seen me at my lowest and she knew how much I missed him but still, she went out of her way to make me miserable and chose her fiancé over me, her only child. Also, about her fiancé, I don't even know what's wrong with that guy. I think I had complained about this in my original post as well, but well, I hate him so I'm gonna complain about it again. I don't know why exactly he just assumed that I did not like him, I was just indifferent to him, and it was not even anything personal, I was just because I was grieving the loss of my father. God forbid he doesn't receive attention from his future stepdaughter for 1 second. And on top of that, he had the audacity to call me a reminder of my mom's past mistakes? I think he has to be the biggest mistake my mom has ever made. I can't imagine anybody being creepy enough to wait for a woman's husband to pass away so he can hit on her and I can't believe my mother was stupid enough to fall for it. So I don't feel bad for her at all anymore and I think that she totally deserves it. And anyone who is on her side here, can take a hike and leave me alone forever. I'm gonna keep track of who's siding with her right now, so that in the future, I never interact with these people ever again. It might seem petty and small for me to do so, but I don't even care, this is a big deal for me. The only good thing that has come out of this is that she has stopped sending me messages after I responded to her, so I think it was worth it. She still has that post though, which honestly doesn't even matter to me because I told my relatives not to keep sending it to me and that I didn't care about it at all. She can play the victim all that she wants, it's not gonna change the reality and it's definitely not gonna change the fact that in a few days, she's going to be served with an eviction notice and then she will have to leave her house. And I personally can't wait for that to happen. Update 2, it happened and I haven't ever been happier. I feel like a bad person for being so happy right now, But I don't care. My mom got served with the eviction notice today and had a total mental breakdown on social media. After she was served, she went live on Facebook and a bunch of my relatives witnessed her completely breaking down. She was sobbing like crazy and I would have felt bad for her if she hadn't actually taken the time to set up the camera and then act dramatic for her audience. She started talking about how she had raised me and my father would have been so disappointed in me today, as if I couldn't say the same thing for her. My mom was acting as if I had an issue with the fact that she was dating again and was trying to move on, which was not even the case. I had an issue with the fact that she was trying to kick me out of the house and make me seem like the bad guy for simply standing up for myself. I didn't even care that she had told me about not being invited to the wedding, but I had an issue with the fact that her fiancé thought that I was toxic and wanted me out of the house that I had lived in with my father. If he had a problem with me, he could leave. And that's the energy that my mother should have had as well, but unfortunately, she thought that giving me time to move out was the more reasonable thing to do here. She had been crying on the floor and beating the floor with her fists. You know how people act in films, and she thought that people were going to sympathize with her, and some people were doing that, but most people were just calling her out on her BS because they knew the entire story. A lot of my relatives who were on my side had screen recorded the entire thing and sent it to me, and I have to say, it's pathetic how she had been acting. I had already been quite embarrassed of how she had been acting for the past couple of weeks, but now I'm downright ashamed of it. I hate the fact that I'm related to her and I'm always going to be known as her daughter because this is just weird and psychotic. Anyway, I'm just happy that even after breaking down on social media and trying to play the victim so badly, it didn't matter because she is still gonna have to vacate the house and be gone by the end of the month. On a more serious note, I hope she sees therapy because it's very obvious to me now that she needs intensive care for her declining mental health, since I literally can't imagine anybody who is normal acting like this. Update 3. Hi, guys. So my mother has moved out, officially. And the house is empty now, so I can move in a couple of days, but I'm gonna wait it out. I've really enjoyed living with my grandparents and I don't want to give up on that so soon. So I'm gonna be staying with them for a few more weeks or maybe even months, I haven't decided yet. Anyway, I have more news about my mother. So apparently she and her fiancé have called off their engagement and have separated. They did not mention any reasons for it on social media, but I have heard from a couple of relatives that she has been telling people that it's because he couldn't handle the fact that she was acting so unstable. I mean, after her recent behavior, I wouldn't blame anybody for leaving her because it has been pretty psychotic. But she has been justifying it all, claiming that it's been happening because she has been having a really tough time coping with her emotions after my father passed away, and even if I do believe that, it just explains her actions, it doesn't excuse them. She has been telling the relatives who had been on her side through this entire thing about what she has been going through, and I really think she needs to reevaluate who she's supposed to about these things because the gossip is spreading, and I'm pretty sure that the ones she has chosen to trust other ones who are talking about her behind her back, otherwise I wouldn't have gotten to know about all of these things. Anyway, that's her choice now. To be honest, everything said and done, I do feel kind of bad for her. She is my mother and both of us lost somebody incredibly important to us last year. I don't think my dad would have liked to see us like this, but I can't help it. I really wanted to accept her and make our relationship work, even though she was doing things that I did not approve of. But I don't think she valued the fact that I was trying my very best to accept her and her fiancé, and she decided to go out of her way to change her life, according to her partner. She should have stood her ground and stood up for me instead, and maybe we would be having a nice life now. Instead, she put everything at risk so she could have a new family and a new life and put me in the past. That backfired on her, and now, she doesn't have a daughter, she doesn't have a fiancé, and she doesn't even have her own home because from what I've heard, she has had to move into a really tiny apartment, which is all she could find on such short notice. I feel bad for her, but at the same time, she brought this on herself. I just hope that at some point in the future, she comes to her senses and apologizes. But even if it doesn't happen, I'm fine with it because I have my grandparents by my side and I'm gonna work hard for my future, just like my father wanted me to.
Thanks for joining me on this wild ride. If you loved this story, make sure to give the video a thumbs up and subscribe for more shocking tales of family drama and Reddit gold. Want to hear another crazy story? Click the video right here. Until next time, stay curious.